Hello, my name is Coco. I'm a health and wellness coach, and I'm hailing from, I will just show you, a angle. I'm hailing from a raining, but it's probably going to be mildly warm, New Zealand. This is my first morning here at Ridges Hotel. I think I'm on like day 9 or 8 or 9. I think I'm on day 9, I think. So in isolation. So I'd just like to take a moment to remind you to be calm, to be well, and to be healthy. So what I have noticed is that everybody is squashing the isolation and quarantine. So I just want to, before I launch into what I wanted to discuss today, just wanted to differentiate between isolation and quarantine. So quarantine is for anybody who is exhibiting flu, cold, COVID-19 symptoms. Then they go into quarantine, so they're completely isolated away from healthy people. I'm in isolation because I'm healthy, and we just have to wait out our time of 14 days. So it has been on my mind that I need to be discussing nutrition. So I'm going to be discussing nutrition today. So here in New Zealand, New Zealand is the second most obese country in the world, and Australia is third. America is first. Now, the meals that we're being served, they're fine, except that for myself, having spent most of my life in Melbourne, Australia, we have been spoilt by really healthy food. So Asian food, and that includes Indian foods. And Sri Lankan, Pakistani food, the Middle Eastern foods, Mediterranean foods, European foods. Now, the exceptions, of course, are your pastas. Well, depending on how they're made, they're not always necessarily the most healthy options that are available. But for the most part, my diet consists of a lot of raw or just partially cooked vegetables and fruit. But a huge favorite of mine is dried fruit and nuts. So I make my own muesli, and when I get to wherever I'm going, or when I return back to Melbourne, then I will post how I make my muesli at home. Now, ideally, I would make my own yogurt as well, and again, when I get back home, I will recommence making my own yogurt as well. So anyway, I'm just going to go quickly through the types of meals that I've been eating. So I don't eat a lot of meat. It became quite apparent that there is more meat in one of the meat dishes that I'm being served than I would eat in maybe a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. And within a couple of days, my body had said that's enough meat. So what I had begun doing is ordering meat for, say, lunch, and then having the vegetarian option in the evening. However, even that was too much for my body, so I've begun skipping meals. Now, I'm not advocating for you skipping meals, but I am being served more food than I would normally eat. And if I was at home, then that would be fine, because there's always somebody who can eat the food that I don't eat. I'm here in lockdown, isolation, and there's nobody whom I can give the food that I don't eat to, with exception, and I'm going to explain that. So we're given treats, and they are either high fat or high sugar. So we're being served cakes and croissants and muffins and things like that. I give a lot of that away. Initially, I was eating it because I needed the energy, but because I've been sleeping since I've arrived here in New Zealand, I have actually been sleeping. So the need for me to keep going and thus continue consuming sugar, not that I really consumed a lot, is that period is done and dusted. So I have already told a friend of mine, and who probably doesn't need the sugar either. I've told her that she can have all my sweets because my body, as officially as of last night, has told me no more. I am being poisoned. So that's what happens when I have a high fat, high sugar intake, which I can tolerate for, like the odd treat here and there. So I'm just going to qualify. I do eat butter, but I don't eat a lot of butter. So when I do eat it, it is definitely a treat. But like I said, I may eat butter maybe once or twice a month. I could probably ingest sugar in so vast quantities once or twice a month as well, maybe every other month. So my diet is pretty low in, and I'm talking about processed sugar. So your sucrose, not your fructose, because I eat a lot of fructose, and not your lactose and milk and galactose. So I'm eating all of those things, but processed sugar is not my friend. So I'm going to be discussing the breakfast that I'm having this morning, and this has been served by Ridges. So I'm just going to change the camera angle. So I've been served muesli today, and I'm absolutely stoked. And this is a berry compote. Now, unfortunately, there is more sugar in here than there are berries. It is overwhelmingly sweet. So I don't know if I'm going to be eating that. Now, the other thing here is fresh and fruity yogurt. So it does say here low fat yogurt, and then when I went online, actually I'll discuss that later. But so I do have some fruit salad, and because it's in the juice and I'll be drinking the juice, then the nutrients that are in there hopefully will be in the juice. So unfortunately what happens when I don't know that this has been, no, it hasn't been. So this will be fine. It's not ideally how I would eat. I like my fruit salad freshly cut up, so I always prepare my own fruit salad. That's going to be fine because I still have the actual fruit juice with it. So a lot of the meals that are being served, they do have like vegetables, but a lot of them have been boiled down. So if I'm not drinking the water where the minerals and vitamins are, then essentially all I'm getting from those vegetables is fiber. Now that's a good thing. So vegetables and fruit provide minerals, they provide vitamins, and they provide fiber. So they're essential parts of our diet. Unfortunately, by the time the vegetables are getting to us the 35 us guests, well, they've lost their nutritional value in regards to minerals and vitamins. Now, that being said, it is better than nothing. So I'm going to discuss what has been served today. So, change the camera. That berry compote really, despite the fact that it is berry, I'm just going to focus the camera on it. Despite the fact that there are real berries in there, unfortunately, they've ruined it with the high sugar content. My general rule of thumb when it comes to drinks and beverages and food, that if you require sugar to augment your food, then your food quality is really poor. And what I've found here in New Zealand is, especially when I was in Dunedin, so in Dunedin there is a high student, young people attending the university there, and unfortunately a lot of the cafes and the like add a lot of sugar in their food. So sugar is highly addictive, and so the inclusion of sugar into savoury products, which is what I was ordering, that signifies first and foremost poor nutrition, and the fact that they actually want to get their customers addicted or to continue on with an addiction that people have for sugar. So that's a big no-no. And it's the same like if you have a coffee. So for me, if I have a good quality coffee, and I've only ever come across two baristas in my life that have made a beautiful coffee that did not warrant actually, so the two best baristas in Melbourne is one is a former colleague of mine, and he used to work in a cafe 20 odd years ago, and the cafe owner told him that as long as he makes coffee, he will only ever be an apprentice. And so when he makes the coffee, it is absolutely beautiful because he's not arrogant enough to assume that he's the all-knowing. His coffee is delicious. And there was another barista that I came across who was actually a barista trainer from Italy, and he spent 2 years as a younger man, 2 years just cleaning the shop or the cafe where he was working. And then he spent 2 years just cleaning the machine before he was even allowed to commence coffee. So those two people have made the best coffee that I've ever tasted in my life. And I'm not a coffee drinker. I only use it as a stimulant because I need it to get through whatever it is that I'm needing to get through. Now, that being said, that prior to my leaving Melbourne, I was actually having coffee with friends at a couple of places. One of them, previous to the coffee that I was served a couple of weeks ago, is the best coffee that that particular cafe has ever served. So that's the Paper Shop Deli in South Melbourne. Now, normally they serve, for me, the coffee is burnt and it tastes disgusting. The day that I had the coffee there was actually a decent coffee. The other place that I have been drinking coffee is Park Lane Cafe on Clarendon Street in South Melbourne. It's a block away from the lake. So it's in between... in terms of, it's on Clarendon Street, but it's between Park and, it's about halfway between Park Street and Albert Road, so the lake. So Park Lane Cafe. And both, that coffee there was absolutely delicious. And like I said, I'm not a coffee drinker. So with all of those things, with decent coffee, one doesn't need sugar. The other thing that I like to drink is chai tea. Now, it's difficult to get chai tea from a cafe that is not using powder. So basically, if you're being served, and that's McDonald's, it's typical of that. You're just eating sugar. That's with just a little bit of flavor. That's what most chai tea that is being served. Now, those people who actually use fresh ingredients, so I do actually make my own chai tea. Those people who make their own chai tea, if it requires honey or sugar, it's not a very good blend. So that's just my general rule of thumb. So in terms of the breakfast that I've been served, so now focus on the yogurt, this fresh and fruity yogurt. Now it does say here low-fat yogurt, and I'm going to take my phone off and I'm going to point it to the screen, my computer screen. So what we can see here is the fat content, and we're looking at the serving size is 150 grams. So it actually doesn't state on here what the serving size is. Maybe it's 150 grams. I actually really don't know. So I think, what was it? So for this particular serving size, you've got 3.8 grams of fat, 2.4 grams of saturated fat, which is, it's okay. So that'll be the milk. So, whatever. I don't really mind that. What I want to draw your attention to here is the sugar content. 23 grams of sugar, 18 grams of sucrose. So that is your processed sugar. That's a lot of sugar. It's going to turn my phone around. That is 9, 18, 10. That's 9 teaspoons. Hang on. 5, 3. I'm just trying to remember the teaspoon content. I'm pretty sure it's 5 grams. So that's almost 4 teaspoons of sugar that's located in this little tub here. That's a lot of sugar. If we think about a cup of tea, and I do have a mug here, I'm just going. So that mug, it's a mug. It's not a teacup. So the mug is 250 milliliters. A teacup is 200 grams. So if you think about 4 teaspoons of sugar in your cup, and this is smaller than that mug. That's almost 2 of these for that mug. That's a lot of sugar. Now, the reason being is these are normally given to kids in their lunch boxes, because they're handy little packs. They create an addiction right from the get-go. So the cereals such as the Cocoa Pops range, the Nutri-Grain ranges, they're all just basically sugar, sugar, sugar. And because there's a lot of air in the product, then there is no nutritional value to those things whatsoever, because the fiber content in those products is so minimal, it's not funny. They are just an expensive waste of time. So I my attention to this muesli, which I am looking forward to consuming. Now I make, this has just got apricots and sultanas, and I don't know what that is. Maybe that's maybe a berry of some description. I've consumed what I've been given for breakfast. I'm not actually going to complain. Now, would I normally eat? I wouldn't normally eat the fruit salad. It's just a little bit more soggy than I'm used to. I would have something like this maybe once every 2 or 3 years, just purely because the sugar content just makes me want to cry. It's the taste factor. I'm just overwhelmed by the sugar taste. So it loses its berry flavor, which I prefer for me. All I taste is sugar. So for me, that's just a waste because it just overpowers the berry. So I have been eating these because I do eat yogurt every day. These are better than nothing, and I have been eating such as these because I've been collecting the containers. Well, I've been collecting the 1 kilo packs because they're going to make very useful containers for me when I'm back in Melbourne. So is this ideal? Do you want to know what? It isn't, but it is better than nothing. So these two coupled with this, so these two coupled with milk are fine. I would prefer nuts in there because they give you that fat content that we all need. But I'm going to pair it with that, and I'm going to have to exclude. And I I hate wasting food, but I must admit I have actually been wasting a lot of food here. Now, there are certain extenuating circumstances to my wasting the food. It's not something I would do. Well, I'm probably lying. It's not something that I like to do. So it does not make me feel good wasting food, because I am aware that there are people who are in need. But I just can't physically ingest the food that I'm being served. All of it anyway. The quantities are too much. The fat and sugar content is just far too much for my body to be able to process without it. So what I ate for dinner last night was I had 4 churros with a chocolate sauce. That's what kicked me in the head, really. I had rice, which was steamed rice, which was nice, and I think I had a beef and bean casserole, which was okay. I didn't eat all of it because I couldn't. And that's sitting in my stomach, and my body is not happy with me. So I'm going to be easing off, and I will be skipping meals. Not because I'm trying to lose weight or anything like that. My body just cannot continue to process the high fat. And the truth of the matter is they're not using a lot of saturated fat per se. They are using a lot of oils, but they tend to coat the food in oil. So I had for dinner about 3 nights ago, I had a tofu fried rice combination, which was fine. There was just too much oil. I'm not going to exaggerate by saying the rice was swimming in the oil, but I was very cognizant of how much oil was in the rice. So I don't cook like that. I have minimal olive oil, extra virgin olive oil when I'm cooking. It is rare that I will, depending on what it is, I will add butter because I love butter. But like I said, I don't eat a lot of it. So I'm going to actually enjoy my breakfast because I have muesli and my body has missed muesli because I love, 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 love it. And I am going to sign off and I'm going to leave you with, as you know, that if you don't have it here, you don't have it anywhere. Cheers.